Hello guys, I'm Orbiter, your Welsh engineer, and welcome to this rendezvous and docking tutorial. Someone asked me, how do you rendezvous? I'm having trouble doing that. And I thought, well, let's do a quick video to show you how to do it. Anyway, we've got our space station in orbit, we've got this rocket on here, very basic rocket, just a launch stage, get into orbit, and simply rendezvous with this space station that we have here. We'll set that as target, which is the first thing you should do. Now, there's a couple of things you can do by here. One, you can fast forward time and get the station above you, because what we're going to do, we're going to launch into a lower orbit, and because we're in a lower orbit, we'll quickly catch up to the space station, because the space station is in a higher orbit, so it's traveling at a much slower speed. Now, I'll show you a bit more about that when we go into it. But basically, if you're docking with a space station, rendezvous with a space station higher up than your initial orbit, then you're going to have to wait until the target has passed over you. This just makes things a lot quicker when you're going for your rendezvous. I'm going to wait until it's about perhaps about here. I'm just guessing this because this is 200 kilometers up in orbit. Let's check that. Yeah, altitude 186 by 186. Yes, I hyper-edited that up into orbit. Right, now what we're going to do is launch it to a lower orbit. But say if you're going to go and rendezvous with something which is in lower orbit, you want to go into a higher orbit, and then you want that station to be behind you, so then it catches you up. Now let's put that theory into practice. So first things first, now we need to go for launch. Engage SAS. Full thrust. Engage rockets. Rendezvous we shall go. Okay, standard launch procedures. Slowly turn to the west. Very slowly. Now, normally I try to gauge this and make sure you're not thrusting too fast. I've got the mainsail engine, which means we're thrusting very fast, and we don't want to have overheating as we're going up through the atmosphere. So keep an eye out on your control. Some things you can do, some tricks. With this rocket is quite balanced, so I could click on prograde and I'll follow the prograde, turning slowly, but you have to do that initial gravity turn, which this is called, and then slowly let it get up. Just adjust the throttle to make sure you're gaining altitude fast enough. Now once you get to higher altitudes, you can increase your speed a bit quicker. Now we've passed 13 kilometers. We should have been on this about 90-degree mark, but never mind. This is just for rendezvous and docking. And going higher through the thickest part of the atmosphere first, then turning it over is the most efficient, as you don't have so much aerodynamic drag, but still you want to be going sideways to gain that orbital speed. Now let's quickly check on the map. You can use mods to get the stats up. Let's make sure we got our head up. Right, 55 degrees. And also, yes, do not worry about these mods. Do not ignore them, because they mean nothing to you if you're playing a stock on the Xbox or the consoles. Now we've staged in our last stage. We should have plenty of fuel in this design. All that design was a orange tank with a mainsail engine to get us through the thickest part of the atmosphere. And then the small, I've forgotten the name of the tank. It's a Rockomax X200 tank and a Poodle engine, which will easily get us into orbit. Now I've added RCS thrusters. I've also balanced the RCS thrusters. I'll leave the design of the rocket to you guys, because this is just going to be a simple get into orbit. Right, we just want to make sure we get into orbit. I'm going to wait until this is about 85. You can do it up to 100 kilometers, but I'm doing it to 80. The lower it is, the faster your rocket will travel in orbit. Okay, a bit over, because we're going to have some aerodynamic drag as we're getting up. Right, now let's add a maneuver node straight on the apoapsis. Get into the standard orbit. Where is we don't want to go to that height. Not yet. Okay, think about that. That should be a nice circular orbit. Let's get on our maneuver node and where is it? 1 minute 40 seconds. I think we should be thrusting about now. Basically thrust halfway before the maneuver node, so then you get about half before and half after the maneuver node, because the maneuver node just calculates the instant velocity change, and that doesn't work great for when you get into orbit. So you do half before and half after. Oh yes, the RCS design. Now I put the RCS tanks roughly center, because most of the weight is going to be in this fuel tank. I emptied the fuel tank slightly to get the center of mass, and then I worked out where the center of mass would be using the tools in the VAB, and put these halfway at the top and the bottom of the center of mass. Now it's not going to be 100%, but you can get it roughly correct if you say I drained her about that far down in the VAB. Now obviously it's going to be a lot further down, but that doesn't matter. There's also mods if you're using PC version that you can download to assist with the RCS construction. I don't use them for some reason, but that's just me, my quirky personality. I enjoy doing things myself, the engineering way. But mind you, one thing I suggest you can get if you do it on PC version is Kerbal Engineering Redux mod, because if you all the stats like Delta V, and that is very handy, especially when you're building your rockets. Alright, we're almost in a circular orbit. This also gives you orbital information, so we can check. 90 by 76, we're definitely in a safe orbit. Okay, so now that's sorted out. How the hell do we get to the space station, Captain? First off, let's get rid of that maneuver node. Now, we do a maneuver called the Hoffman transfer. And what that means is, what we're going to do is, let's quickly shove a maneuver out here. I'm going to raise one side of the orbit until we get an intercept with the station. And then we're going to, when we get close to the station, we do another burn, which would get the other side up. Oh, that's a bit too far. To the same orbit as the space station. That's just a rough approximation of what a Hoffman transfer is. So let's quickly do that. Let's add another maneuver node. Let's put it by here. First off, we don't know where this intercept is going to be, so I've just added it about in front of my rocket. Right, raise it up until we get the close approach markers. Now, drag the maneuver node around until these close approach markers get a lot closer. This is a lot easier if you're in circular orbits. Now, it looks like we're going to pass the rocket, and you can see it's switched over back to where this is just in front of us. So what we're going to do, right click, add an orbit, nice handy tool which is not easy to know unless someone tells you. Now you can see the close approach markers, they're getting closer, closer, closer. Ooh, they switched over there. Okay, cool, that looks quite close. Right click, well, hover over it, right click on it, it tells you separation is 9.7 kilometers. Now what you can do is, if you use the mouse wheel over, if you got a mouse, hover over the prograde or retrograde and just tweak the mouse wheel slowly, because sometimes if you do it too quickly you overshoot, and get that separation a lot closer. Okay, so we got it down to 7.6. Now let's mess with the normal, well, what are they called? Normal and anti-normal, which is up and down. There's no up and down in space, you silly boy. But yes, there is in the game, because it makes it easier. You need a reference point to play this game. Okay, you can see we're getting closer. That's because our... oh no, what's it? Ascending node. That means that we're not in the exact plane. We're not in this little plane of orbit that we should be. Now, we can tweak this a lot closer, but I'm going to show you a way of getting your rendezvous if you're going to get a bit further away. So let's make this a bit harder on ourselves. Let's say 9 kilometers. Okay, now that's not the perfect maneuver, but let's get on our maneuver node. Let's use this button, warp to maneuver node. Now this is going to take a little bit of time, and we're not going to wait the 31 minutes obviously, but because it's an orbit and a bit, it takes a bit of time for the because we're in a lower orbit, which means time accelerated is limited to about that speed. Otherwise, it'll go a bit higher. But that's okay. If you got the time, that's awesome. Now, I tried to launch at a time when the space station was a bit closer, where I should have launched a bit earlier. So, because it was a bit lower, it was traveling faster than I thought it was. But there you go, that's the way of things. You learn. Okay, now that we've got our moon up, let's get a bit closer. So 5-second burn, so this is going to be very, very quick. Watch that you don't overshoot your maneuver node. And coming in, 20 seconds, 10 seconds. I like to go to 10 seconds. Normally what I do is I burn a lot slower, adjusting the throttle so that we get halfway when we get to 0. See, nicely done. You don't have to go full thrust all the time. Okay, we'll use the maneuver node as our guide. Okay, 3 meters, bit over. 8.8 kilometers intercept. So there's no fast forward, there's no time accelerate to the closest approach. So what I'm going to do is click before we get close, warp here. Now at this point, let's get out map view. Click on this little number here, change it from surface then to target. See, you get these, what do you call it? That is the position of our target. The red reticle, the pink, I think it'd be a close example. Let's point to the target. So that's over there. Okay, it's 15 kilometers, getting closer. You've also got these anti-target, and then the good tools that you really need is prograde and retrograde. Use retrograde, click on that. Now this is not showing retrograde of the orbit because we're traveling this way. The way my mouse is moving there, because you see it, yes also. But what we want to do is cancel out the velocity. So this is showing a velocity of the target as there is. It's going faster and faster as we're getting closer and closer. That's because we're slowing down, because we're going to dip down into a lower orbit and we have to cancel our orbit out, cancel our speed relative to the target. And what that is going to do is get us in the same orbit as the target. So once we boost there, it'll be exactly as if I add a maneuver here and get in the same orbit. Let's kill that because we don't need that. Okay, was it 8 kilometers? So let's get our closest approach. We'll do it at about here, I think. Nice quick boost up. Watch your target speed. You want to get it down to 0 and kill. Now if you watch that target speed, it's going to increase slowly. That's because you're not in exactly the same orbit. Because of the distance, then we're not going to get the close approach properly. So what we're going to have to do, hit target. Now you can go to map view and add maneuver nodes to get more closer approaches, but this is the way I tried and tested. Okay, thrust towards target. Alright, let's keep it under 50. Now hit retrograde again, so we're going to cancel out our target when we get closer. Okay, what's our distance? Oh, this is pretty good distance. I'm going to mess this up a bit, just in case. Okay, there you go. I'm a bit further away, I think. Right, say that... See, it's in a different orbit. We're not getting close parallel to it, so what I'm going to do is cancel out the velocity again. Just keep on doing this. You might find that it's a lot harder when you first try it. I know that when I first tried it, it was extremely hard. I did not know what I was doing. Okay, so now we've done that, let's go point towards the target again. Thrust towards it. Let's go at a slower speed because we're a lot closer. It's through 25. half our original speed. Hit retrograde again, get ready because we're really close this time. Oh, bang on the money. Okay, coming up. The ideal distance route is probably this distance, I suppose. No. I normally like to get at least 500 meters away before I start deciding to dock. Okay, let's point towards the target. Now I'm going to click R to engage the RCS thrusters. And I'm going to use H, N, I, J, K and L keys, although you do have the option of using docking mode, which changes the WASD keys to up, down, left, right, wherever the rocket controls are. What I want to do first is use H to thrust towards the rocket, to the space station, to be more precise. Get a lot closer. Use a bit of time, sorry, but be careful, you don't want to hit the thing. Okay, now, I'm professional, so do not copy my thingamajiggy. Alright, let's click on prograde. Let's kill our velocity down a lot, because now we need to target. Let's go backwards a bit. That's the best thing. If you're coming close, and you have to get close enough to select your docking port. So we could select that one, which is going to be a bit harder to dock to. But if you set up a space station, always have a docking node pointing north or south. If you're in an equator orbit, which is around the equator like this, that way it makes docking a lot easier. So go ahead, right click on that, select as target. Now make sure you select your docking port that you're going to use to dock to, and control from here. Just in case your docking port is offset slightly, you want to make sure that you've got the exact spot where you're controlling from to get the targets to dock properly. Okay, so using just a visual reference, what I normally do by here, just make sure we're on just stability assist. Let's get a docking mode. I do not like docking mode for some reason. Okay, oh, no. I want to point under the station, just roughly. Thrust forward with all your might. No, not really. But let's get a bit closer. And people may be asking, why do you need a space station? It's not a requirement in the game. Well, it is if you're in Korea, you have to build space stations and whatnot. But, alright, let's slow down now. Let's get our speed as close to 0 as possible. If you're going at a weird angle, use prograde and retrograde. But it only comes up when you're over 1 meter per second. Okay, now what we want to do is, you see the way the docking node is placed there, so we need to point our rocket up. Just roughly get it right. Don't be too precise. Now you can see the target there, that's the docking port because we set it as the target. Now I'm going to thrust forward slightly. Now I'm going to use IJK, or you can set up WASD keys as you're docking, and get that retrograde, the prograde vector, over your target. Now don't go too fast here. You want to do, docking is slow, and you want the magnetics of the docking ports to do the work for you when you get close enough. Just be ready to disengage the SAS so your docking port will align automatically using, there you can see I'm at an angle, I didn't realise that. Ooh. And if you're on PC, use caps lock to make fine adjustments. I've never tried this. Ooh, let's get closer, see what we're doing. Alright, disengage SAS, let the magnetics of the ports take over, and hey presto, we've docked. Now this is a simple example. If your ship was bigger, it wouldn't, the magnetics of the port won't make that easy to dock on its own, so you might have to maneuver it yourself to straighten it up. There are mods called docking alignment mod, which will help you with that. But anyway, guys, this is a simple tutorial on how to rendezvous and dock with a space station. Now, hopefully you found this helpful. If you did, crank that like button like an engineer. I am Orbiter. Trust me, I'm an engineer. And let's get out of here.